All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our college basketball video here today for Friday, March 19th. This is our March Madness edition. We got a great show for you here today. This is going to be one of our longer videos we've done in a while. Now, if you're new here, I just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my channel. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to find out how many of these picks are also being featured on my premium content, you may want to check me out at patreon.com/BrockPage. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a sec. But guys, we got ourselves a huge slate of games here today. March Madness, it has begun. And we're going to try to cover all of these first round games here. So let's go ahead and start. The Virginia Tech Hokies take on the Florida Gators, 12:15 Eastern tip-off. The Virginia Tech Hokies are the 1-point favorite. Total's 135 flat. If you like the Florida Gators in the slightest of upsets here, they're minus 105 on the money line. And following a 4-2 day yesterday on my Patreon website, we also improved to 10-2 in our last dozen extra daily picks on that Patreon page. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also hitting at 88% in our last 24 extra daily picks in that very same category. And if you want to join the 1,350 members who are currently signed up and active on that Patreon page, link for that site is in the description section below. Once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, Florida's got themselves a winning record in their contests away from home this season. They're also in the top 40 in the nation in shooting from the stripe, top 35 in defending the three ball as well. As a matter of fact, the Gators allow just 69 points per contest, and they hold their opponents to just 30% shooting from beyond the arc. Trey Mann is scoring 16 points a game for the Gators, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for the 6'5 guard. Mann's also drilling 40% of his three-pointers, and he's recorded 32 total steals defensively. Meanwhile, 6'11 forward Colin Castleton is averaging a dozen a night along with 5 boards as well. The juniors recorded 48 total blocks and 11 steals. They're taking on a Virginia Tech squad who actually failed to cover the number in 4 out of their last 5. And they also went just 3-6 against the spread in their last 9. The Hokies averaged just 69 points per contest away from their home court this year, and they shot just 29% from downtown in that same category. Now, total-wise, Virginia Tech went 3-0 to the over in their neutral site games this season, 3-2 to the over in their last 5 contests at any location. Meanwhile, the Gators went 8-6 to the over in their contests away from their home court themselves. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Florida Gators +1 and the over 135. Next ball game, it is going to be Colgate versus Arkansas, 12:45 Eastern start time. Arkansas is minus 8.5. Total's 161 juice to the over. Now, the Razorbacks won 9 out of their last 10 ball games, 80% against the number in those contests. They're also in the top 10 in the country in scoring on average per contest, top 15 in offensive rebounding. Moses Moody scoring nearly 18 points a game, along with 5 rebounds. Meanwhile, J.D. Notae scoring over 13 a game himself, 3 rebounds, couple assists for the guard. Notae's also recorded 41 total steals and 10 blocks. Arkansas scoring over 82 points a game, and they're holding their opponents to just 40% shooting from the field. Now, they're taking on a Colgate team who is real strong in the Patriot League. I'm not going to take that away from them, but I'm not so sure they're going to be able to keep up with a team as powerful as Arkansas. The SEC had some very competitive basketball this season, very good conference this year. Also, the Raiders of Colgate failed to cover the number against the likes of Boston University and Holy Cross within their past handful of ball games. Now, total-wise, I don't see the Raiders running the floor in Arkansas. I know a lot of folks, they see these numbers and they think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, but it's going to take a lot of effort to be able to run up the score here on Arkansas. 2 out of Colgate's last 4 outings did stay under the number as well. Meanwhile, Arkansas saw their last 2 straight stay under the line themselves, 5-2 to the under in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward the Arkansas Razorbacks -8.5 and the under 161. Next ball game, it is going to be Drexel versus Illinois, 1:15 Eastern tip-off. The Illinois Fighting Illini are -23, totals 143.5. Illinois is led by Ayo DeSumo, who's scoring nearly 21 points a game, along with 6 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Big Kofi Coburn is scoring over 17.5 points a game, along with 9 rebounds. Now, the 7-foot center has also recorded 36 total blocks. Illinois is in the top 10 in field goal percentage, top 10 in offensive rebounding. They averaged over 81 points a game this year. They're taking on a Drexel squad who played just 16 games this season, and they suffered losses to the likes of James Madison, William and Mary, and College of Charleston. Now, total-wise, I think Drexel is going to be completely out-physicaled in the paint. Don't really see them taking command offensively. Meanwhile, the Illini saw 3 out of their last 5 stay under the line themselves. Going to be a struggle here for this Drexel team to put up some points on the board. It's going to be tough to see them get to 50 points, to be honest with you. I'm going to lean toward the Illinois Fighting Illini -23 and the under 143.5. Next ball game, I'm looking forward to this one. This should be a good one, guys. I'm talking about Utah State versus Texas Tech, 1:45 Eastern start time. Now, the Texas Tech Red Raiders are -4.5, totals 131. But Texas Tech comes into the tourney on a 2-game losing streak, and they also failed to cover the point spread in 7 out of their last 10. Texas Tech played just .500 basketball away from their home court, and they also successfully covered the point spread in just 25% of those very contests away from home. They're taking on an Aggie program who won 6 out of their last 7 themselves, and they went 10-6 straight up away from home. The Aggies are in the top 10 in the country in offensive rebounding, top 10 defensively in defensive field goal percentage. If you haven't heard of them, you're going to hear of them today. Namias Keita, he's averaging over 15 points a game, along with 10 rebounds and 2.5 assists. Now, the 7-foot junior has recorded a staggering 90 total blocks this season, along with 30 steals defensively. Meanwhile, Justin Bean is scoring nearly a dozen a game himself, along with 7 rebounds. The 6'7" forward is also drilling over 83% of his free throws. The Aggies are a handful. They allowed just 61 points per contest away from home this year, and they held their opponents to just 38% shooting from the field. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Utah State went 5-2 to the under in their neutral site contest this season, 16-11 to the under overall for the year. Meanwhile, Texas Tech saw 5 out of their last 7 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Utah State Aggies +4.5 and the under 131. Next contest, it is going to be Oral Roberts versus Ohio State, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Ohio State Buckeyes are -15.5, totals 157 flat. Now, I actually think the Buckeyes are going to struggle defensively with the Golden Eagles. Ohio State already allowed 71 points per contest this season, and they also lost 5 out of their last 8 ball games. Now, they're taking on an Oral Roberts squad who actually ranks in the top 15 in the country in scoring on average per game, and they lead the NCAA in free throw percentage. That's a stat that doesn't involve your opponent. They're just good at shooting free throws. The Golden Eagles are drilling over 82% of their free throws as a unit, and they're also draining nearly 40% of their three-pointers, which can certainly negate the size differential between these two clubs, certainly a neutralizer there. Max Abmas is averaging a staggering 24 points per contest for Oral Roberts, 3 rebounds, 3 assists for the sophomore guard. Meanwhile, 6'8" junior Kevin Obanor is scoring over 18 points a night himself, along with 9.5 rebounds. Both players shooting over 88% from the stripe. The Golden Eagles are averaging 82 points per contest. Now, total-wise, ORU went 12-3 to the over away from home, 16-7 to the over for the entire year. Meanwhile, the Buckeyes saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves, 4-1 to the over in their 5 neutral site contests. Buckeyes should win it outright, but man, I think this is going to be a fun one here, guys. I'm going to lean toward the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles +15.5, keeping this one respectable, and the over 157. All right, next ball game, for some reason, not on our big screen. I'm not sure why, but anyway, it is going to be Hartford versus Baylor, 3:30 p.m. Eastern tip-off at Lucas Oil Stadium. The Baylor Bears are the 25.5-point favorite. Totals 140. Now, Baylor led the country in three-point shooting, top 3 in scoring on average per contest. The Bears are drilling 42% of their three-pointers, and they're scoring nearly 85 points a game. Jared Butler scoring over 17 a night, 3 rebounds, 4 assists for the junior guard. Butler's also recorded 49 steals, and he makes 43% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Maceo Teague is scoring over 16 a night himself, along with 4 rebounds. Baylor went 11-2 straight up in their games away from home, 9-4 against the number in those contests. Now they're taking on a Hartford team who won just 5 of 12 away from their home court themselves, and they averaged just 65 points per contest. Even worse than that, the Hawks averaged just 60 points a game away from their home court, and they shot just 28% from beyond the arc when they traveled. Now, total-wise, I think the Hawks are certainly going to struggle to score 60 points in this one. They also went 75% to the under in their dozen contests away from home. I'm going to lean toward the Baylor Bears minus 25.5 and the under 140. All right, next contest, it is going to be Georgia Tech versus Loyola Chicago, 4 o'clock East. The Loyola Chicago Ramblers are the 5.5-point favorite. Totals 124. Now, the Ramblers are on a 6-game winning streak, 24-4 straight up overall for the season. They're currently in the top 3 defensively in points allowed, top 3 in the nation in defensive rebounding as well. Cameron Krutwig is scoring 15 points a game for the Ramblers, along with 6 boards and 3 assists. Loyola holds their opponents to just 40% shooting from the field. They're taking on a Georgia Tech squad who's going to work today here without their best player, Moses Wright. The 6'9 senior and ACC Player of the Year was responsible for over 17 points a game along with 8 rebounds. That's a huge blow to the Ramblin' Wreck. Now, Georgia Tech has been red hot lately, but they do allow 70 points per contest, and their opponents make nearly 38% of their three-pointers against them. So with those factors, plus one of the ACC's best players out of the picture, this is actually going to be a tough one for the Yellow Jackets. If he was playing, I might lean Yellow Jackets here, but that's a lot of factors going against them. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Georgia Tech's 3 neutral site contests stayed under the line. Meanwhile, 5 out of Loyola's last 7 stayed under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Loyola Chicago Ramblers minus 5.5 and the under 124. Loyola Chicago, was that the school that had the Sister Jean lady a couple of years ago? I don't know. Anyway, next matchup, it is going to be Oregon State, Tennessee, 4:30 Eastern start time. The Tennessee Vols are the 8.5-point favorite. Totals 131 flat. But as good as Tennessee's been this season, this is a pretty big number here for a team who played just .500 basketball away from home this year. The Vols also made just 33% of their 3 balls this season. And don't forget that big 6'9 senior John Fulkerson, he's been listed as questionable today, so we actually might not see him in action. Now, they're taking on a scrappy Oregon State team who certainly covered their fair share of point spreads this year. In addition to winning 6 out of their last 7 straight up, the Beavers have gone a staggering 16-3 against the number in their last 19 ball games. Now, Oregon State's gone 3-0 against the number in their 3 neutral site contests as well, 70% against the number as the official road team. They're giving up just 67 points per contest when they travel, and they're holding their opponents to just 30% shooting from 3 land in that same category. Ethan Thompson is scoring over 15 points a game for the Beavers, 3 rebounds, 3 assists for the 6'5 guard. Meanwhile, Jared Lucas is scoring he's scoring a dozen a night as well, along with a couple of rebounds. Now, total-wise, Oregon State's last 6 straight outings did get over the number, 8-5 to the over in their contest away from their home court. Meanwhile, 2 out of Tennessee's last 3 got over the total themselves, throwing out the Bama contest. I'm going to lean toward the Oregon State Beavers, plus 8.5, and the over 131. Next ball game, it is going to be Liberty versus Oklahoma State. Let's try that again. Liberty versus Oklahoma State, 625 East. Oklahoma State's minus 7, totals 139.5. Oklahoma State's gone 8-1 against the spread in their last 9, 8-2 straight up in their last 10. The Cowboys are scoring nearly 78 points a night. and they rank in the top 40 in offensive rebounding. Cade Cunningham is scoring over 20 points a game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Meanwhile, Avery Anderson III is dropping nearly a dozen a night himself, along with 4 boards and a couple assists as well. They're taking on a Liberty squad who failed to cover the number in 2 out of their last 3. Failures to cover against the likes of Northern Alabama and Kennesaw State. Now, total-wise, Liberty went 6-1 to the over in their 7 neutral site contests. Oklahoma State went 60% to the over in their contests away from home themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Oklahoma State Cowboys -7 in the over 139.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Wisconsin versus UNC, 7:10 Eastern tip. The North Carolina Tar Heels are the 1.5 point favorite. Total's 138 juice to the under. And if you like the Wisconsin Badgers in an upset at the Mackey Arena, they're plus 105 for some money line cash. Now, I think Wisconsin's strength of schedule should certainly be taken into account here. Their last 7 losses did come to the hands of Iowa 3 times, Illinois twice, as well as Purdue and Michigan. Top-tier teams in the entire country. So certainly no slouches they've been losing to, and they've actually been competitive in the majority of those ball games. Very winnable games for them. Now, the Badgers also allowed just 64 points per contest defensively, and they're holding their opponents to just 32% shooting from beyond the arc. Demetric Trice is scoring over 13.5 points per contest, 3 rebounds, 4 assists for the senior guard. Meanwhile, Micah Potter is scoring over a dozen a game himself, along with 5 rebounds. Now, the 6'10 forward also shoots 86% from the stripe. They're taking on a UNC program who went just 6-11 against the spread in their contest away from home this season. The Tar Heels also shot just 31% from beyond the arc as well. Total-wise, 3 out of UNC's last 4 did get over the number, 6-3 to the over in their last 9. Meanwhile, Wisconsin saw 4 out of their last 5 get over the posted total as well. I'm going to lean toward the underdog, Wisconsin Badgers plus 1.5 in the over 138. Next ball game, it is going to be Cleveland State versus Houston, 7:15 Eastern start time. Houston's the 20-point favorite, totals 135. Now, Houston just blasted Cincinnati in their conference championship game by nearly 40 points. The Cougs have won 9 out of their last 10, and they covered the number in 70% of those very contests, most of them of which were double-digit point spreads, by the way. Quentin Grimes is scoring 18 points a game along with 6 rebounds and 41% shooting from downtown. Meanwhile, Marcus Sasser is scoring nearly 14 a night himself, 2 rebounds, couple assists for the sophomore guard. Houston's in the top 3 in the country defensively in points allowed per contest, top 3 in defensive field goal percentage as well. The Cougars hold their opponents to just 57 points per contest and just 37% shooting from the field. One more thing to add, the Cougars also hold their opponents to just 27% shooting from beyond the arc. Now, they're taking on a Cleveland State program who's actually played some superb basketball within their conference. But having said that, though, they're beating up on teams like Oakland, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Purdue Fort Wayne. So really questionable strength of schedule there. Can't control who you play, but that's certainly not going to help them. The Vikings also allowed 71 points a game in that weak conference, and they made only 31% of their three-pointers. Total-wise, going to be tough for Cleveland State to get on the board here today. They also went 60% to the under in their games away from home. Meanwhile, the Cougs saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line themselves, throwing out the Cincy game. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Cougars, -20 in the under 135. Next ball game, it is going to be North Texas versus Purdue, 7:25 Eastern Standard Time. Now, the Purdue Boilermakers are -7 at Lucas Oil Stadium, not really all too far from home. Total's 126 flat. Purdue's won 5 out of their last 6 ball games, 80% against the number in their last 10. They're in the top 40 in defensive rebounding, and they allow just 66 points a game. Trevion Williams is scoring over 15.5 points per contest, 9 rebounds and a couple assists for the 6'10 junior. Meanwhile, Jaden Ivey scoring 10.5 points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds and a couple assists. The Purdue defense holds their opponents to just 31% shooting from beyond the arc. Now they're taking on a North Texas team who averages just 69 points a game, and they were actually victorious in just 29% of their contests when catching plus money. Really struggled as the underdog. Now total-wise, North Texas' last 3 straight all stayed under the number, 70% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Purdue went 60% to the under in their games away from their home court themselves. I'm actually going to lean toward the Purdue Boilermakers -7 and the under 126. All right, next ball game, getting down to the wire here, guys. I'm talking about Rutgers versus Clemson, 9:20 Eastern tip-off. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights are the 2-point favorite. Total's 125.5. Now, Rutgers kind of struggled away from home this season. Just 4-6 straight up in their road games, 1-1 straight up on a neutral site. They averaged just 65 points per contest in their games away from home. And they shot just 30% from downtown in that very same category. They're taking on a Clemson squad who's in the top 15 in the nation defensively in points allowed. They also won 7 out of their last 10 contests, and they're led by Amir Sims, who scores over 13 points a game, along with 6 rebounds and a couple assists. Now, Sims is also drilling 41% of his 3 balls, and when it comes to the number in this one, 3 out of Clemson's last 5 stayed under the line. Rutgers is 6-3 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Clemson Tigers +2 and the under 125.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Syracuse versus San Diego State, 9:40 Eastern start time. San Diego State Aztecs are -3 with the total at 139 flat. Now the Aztecs went 6-2 straight up on the road this season, 4-0 straight up in neutral site contests. San Diego State is currently on a 14-game heater, and they covered over 64% of those contests during that winning streak. Matt Mitchell is scoring over 15 points a game, along with 5.5 boards and a couple assists. The 6'6 senior has also recorded 36 total steals. Meanwhile, 6'6 guard Jordan Shackle is scoring over 14 a night himself, along with 4 rebounds. The Aztecs are in the top 10 in the country in points allowed, top 10 in defensive field goal percentage. They allow just 60 points per contest. They're taking on a Syracuse squad who's struggled away from home this year, just 2-7 straight up in their road games, 1-1 straight up at a neutral site. The Orange allow 79 points a game when they travel, and they make only 32% of their 3-pointers away from home as well. Now, total-wise, Syracuse went 4-2 to the over in their last 6 contests, 10-1 to the over away from home. Meanwhile, San Diego State saw 4 out of their last 7 contests get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the San Diego State Aztecs -3 and the over 139. Real quick, the reason why the screen went blank, I use an Xfinity app on my big screen TV, and if you pause it, after about 20 minutes, it becomes unpaused, and it just starts playing again on its own. So that's why we have a blank screen. But anyway, next matchup, Morehead, West Virginia, 9:50 Eastern tip-off. The West Virginia Mountaineers are the 13-point favorite, numbers 137. The Mountaineers won 10 of 14 away from home this year, 77 points per contest they averaged overall for the season. Miles McBride is scoring over 15 a game along with 3 boards, 4 assists. The sophomore guard also has 49 total steals on the season. Meanwhile, 6'10", Derek Culver is scoring over 14.5 points a game himself, along with 9 rebounds. The Mountaineers hold their opponents to just 32% shooting from beyond the arc. They're taking on a Morehead team who scores just 66 points a game away from home, and they failed to cover against the likes of Southeast Missouri State, SIU Edwardsville, Belmont, and Austin Peay within their last 10 outings. Now, total-wise, 11 out of Morehead's 17 contests away from home stayed under the line. West Virginia saw 3 out of their last 6 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the West Virginia Mountaineers -13 and the under 137. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Winthrop versus Villanova, 9:57 Eastern Standard Time. The Villanova Wildcats are -6.5, totals 143. But despite the absence of Colin Gillespie, Nova has a very well-coached ball club, and I think they should be able to get the job done against this Winthrop group. I know Winthrop's had a great season, but Nova, man, they just get the job done. Jay Wright, he's a genius with the X's and O's. Now, Nova allows just 67 points per contest, and they're going to have to look to Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who actually still leads the team with over 15.5 points per contest, along with 8 rebounds. Now, Justin Moore is also averaging over a dozen a night, along with 4 boards and a couple assists as well. They're taking on a Winthrop squad who does, in fact, score a ton of points. I get that. They've had a just stellar season. Having said that, though, the Eagles have been beating up on teams like Campbell, Longwood, and High Point. They also failed to cover the point spread in 5 out of their last 10. Now, total-wise, Winthrop's last 6 straight all stayed under the line, 80% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Villanova saw 4 out of their last 6 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Villanova Wildcats minus 6.5 and the under 143. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the Florida Gators +1 over 135. Arkansas minus 8.5 under 161. Illinois minus 23 under 143.5. Utah State +4.5 under 131. Oral Roberts +15.5 over 157. Baylor minus 25.5 under 140. Loyola Chicago minus 5.5 under 124. Oregon State +8.5 over 131. Oklahoma State minus 7 over 139.5. Wisconsin +1.5 over 138. Houston minus 20 under 135. Purdue minus 7 under 126. Clemson +2 under 125.5. San Diego State minus 3 over 139. West Virginia minus 13 under 137. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the show, one final reminder that we are 10-2 in our last dozen extra daily pick tier package plays on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 88% in our last 24 premium sports picks in that very same tier membership. I like the Villanova Wildcats minus 6.5 and the under 143. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our YouTube shout-outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to James Starvin, Elijah Mukwasa, King Jackson, Travis Jones, Teddy Choba from Ghana, West Africa, Henry Diaz, Michael Moore, Zek Abdelaziz, Francisco Rocha, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout-out to my good friend, Nolan Hollinger. All right, guys, one final reminder that all the content on my YouTube channel is for entertainment purposes only. I don't make any guarantees of any kind. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today on Patreon, just keep in mind we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. Most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. March Madness is finally here, guys. This is the best time of the year for sports bettors. And with that, guys, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.